This is Will Sanchez. My special guest tonight is Jeff Galloway, a former Olympian and the man probably most responsible for getting more runners to the starting line of a marathon uninjured.
Well, it's great to be here.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, let's get started by sharing with the audience a little bit about your background. Where were you born? A little bit about your family, a little bit about your schooling.
I was born in Raleigh, North Carolina. My father was in the Navy, and for the first 13 years of my life, my father would transfer quite frequently. I went to 13 schools my first 7 years and never really settled into doing any regular exercise. I was lazy. I was able to duck out of regular exercise and really didn't like exercise at all. And as I entered the 8th grade, my father got out of the Navy. We went to a school where they required boys to have athletics after school. Mm-hmm. And I had to choose. Well, I had gotten to know some of the other lazy kids at the school and asked them what they were going to go out for. And most of them were choosing winter cross country. I said, that doesn't sound easy. They said it is, because the cross country coach is the most lenient in the school. And all you have to do is tell him you're going to run on the trails in the woods. And once you get to the woods, 200 yards, you can goof off. He's not going to see you. So that's what I did the first 2 days. And then as fate would have it, an older kid that I liked said, Galloway, you're coming with us today. I said, oh no, they run. So I had my strategy in place. I was going to reach the edge of the woods, grab my hamstring and say, I'm injured. But they started telling jokes. And then they started telling gossip about the teachers. Well, I wanted to stay up to hear all of this. And I didn't stay up very far the first day, but progressively, over the 10-week period, I got in better and better shape. There were two things that came out of that experience immediately. First of all, even on a bad day when I was really wiped out from trying to keep up with them, I felt better afterwards than I used to feel all week long. The second, the camaraderie that we experienced was amazing. I'd never felt friendships like that, honest friendships. The ability to discuss and argue and laugh and have fun. Those folks are still friends.
Did you go to college?
Well, each year I would try to work a little harder and get in a little bit better shape. And I improved. It was up and down, but I improved overall each year. But I didn't show any promise of being able to be a highly competitive Olympic runner.
Okay.
And that was not even a dream. I did not get a college scholarship. I went to Wesleyan University in Connecticut, which did not have scholarships at all for the academics, and enjoyed that greatly. I was a child of the Vietnam era. My draft number was number 3.
Lucky you.
I could not get on any of the teams that the services had, so I enrolled in the Navy and was on board ship for the first 18 months. I lucked out in that during the last term of my Navy enrollment, I was stationed on shore at Pearl Harbor. I was on a ship that didn't go to sea. It was in the yards. Anyway, I started running again, and I started to get back in shape. And shortly after that, when I returned to the United States in 1970, I decided that I really wanted to see what I could do. I had no illusions of making the Olympic team, but I had 2 years to get in better shape. And my only hope was that maybe I could achieve a standard that would allow me to qualify just to get into the Olympic trials. And I was 2 minutes away from that in the 10K and about 10 minutes away from that in the marathon. So I whacked away at that just month by month, made a little progress every 6 months, and in fact, I qualified for the trials. And it was the biggest surprise and joy of my life when I came from behind in the 10K in the Olympic trials, finished second and qualified for the Olympic team. Totally unexpected to me and the other runners in the race too.
Wow. Did you qualify for the marathon or just for the 10K?
Well, the first race in the trials that year was the 10K, and I ran it really as a warm-up before the marathon, which was going to be a week later.
Okay.
Because I felt my best chance was going to be in the marathon, and it was really an unexpected situation that I qualified in the 10K. So then in the marathon a week later, one of my dearest friends on our team, the founder of our Florida track club at the time, his name is Jack Batchelor. He had missed qualifying in the 10K, so I paced him through the marathon. He did not have good pacing skills, and I did, and I was in really the best shape of my life. And I was a cheerleader during the last 5 miles, but we moved up from 100th place into 50th place by 5 miles, and then just kept moving up. And we entered the stadium in a tie for 3rd place, and I dropped back at the finish line so he could be the official qualifier. That was really the one competitive moment that I enjoy more than any other of my races.
You're kidding. That was your most enjoyment of all your races.
It was wonderful to help a friend.
I can relate to that because I did something, not with Olympics, but I did something with Joy Johnson, who's a champion runner in an age group a few years ago. And I kept telling people, I know you won't believe this, but that's one of the highlights of my life, was running with Joy during that race, because she did finish first in her age group. So that is fascinating.
It really happens to a lot of runners. They may start out competitive, but as the years go by, there are friendships and there are needs among friends, and runners tend to help other runners. Running changes us.
Who were some of the other well-known Olympians? Was Steve Prefontaine one of the?
Absolutely. Steve was a friend, and he ran the 5K. I obviously ran the 10K. Frank Shorter, another teammate of mine, qualified both in the 10K and in the marathon and won the Olympic gold medal.
Marathon.
But a lot of people don't realize that in the 72 games, Frank finished 5th in the 10K. I mean, he was way up there and did extremely well and set an American record in that race.
For the which one, the 10K?
In the 10K.
Oh,
Came back a week later and won the marathon gold.
So you did run in the finals of the 10K?
Yes.
And what was your position?
I finished 2nd.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Wow. And of course, Steve Prefontaine. Now, was that the race he ran that he came in 3rd?
His 4th.
His 4th. But he really made that race.
Yes, he made the race, and the story is very well chronicled in the movie Prefontaine. Hollywood Pictures is very well done. The actor was Jared Leto. Prefontaine is closer to the real story of his life, and they didn't really take liberties with the storyline.
Cool, because when you see all the clips from the Olympics, the Steve Prefontaine race is one of the highlights, because even though he finished 4th, the race was just an amazing battle among those Olympians.
Well, he was an amazing competitor. He really pulled out of himself in every race what was there. He never sloughed off. And he inspired people because of that, and still inspires runners to this day.
How did you decide what career to go after that?
Well, I thought I was going to be a teacher, and I had a teaching job already lined up. I went back and I taught, and I discovered during that school year, 72-73 school year, that I did not like the classroom situation for teaching. I wanted to teach, but I wanted to teach people something that the people wanted to learn. And so I went back to an experience I had had in 1967, 68. I was on leave in the Navy. I went up to Eugene, Oregon, and worked in a store that a friend of mine was starting up. It was a store that was sponsored by the company that now is Nike. At the time, it was called Blue Ribbon Sports.
Oh, yes, yes.
But my friend Jeff Hollister was opening up this little storefront, and I helped him sweep the floors and clean the toilets and set up some of the displays. And that embedded way back in my brain the concept that if other things that I wanted to do did not turn out right, maybe I could start a running store. Now, the store that Jeff opened was not a purely running store. It had a number of different sport shoes in it, and it was a company store from Blue Ribbon Sports. So when I started my store right after the teaching did not work out, in 1973, I wanted a specialty running store and to have clinics out of the store and training programs and information about events and how to get in better shape and how to walk and so forth. And as far as I know, it was my store, Fidipides, was the very first store that was the just specialty running store in the country.
This was in Atlanta at this point?
Actually, it was in Tallahassee first.
Oh.
I moved the store to Atlanta in 1975. But in 73, we opened in Tallahassee.
Tallahassee, and then you moved to Atlanta. Well, you're absolutely right. Every store in New York City, this is true, does exactly what you described to the T. They just took your model and repeated it because it was so successful.
Well, that's fine, and it wasn't successful for 10 years. There really were not enough runners around to make it very profitable, and so you really didn't see many stores from 1973 to 83.
But you changed that through the clinics because more and more people got into running.
How did I meet Barbara? Well, that has a running connection. It was in Tallahassee when I was beginning my store, and I was looking for marketing opportunities. So every afternoon I would go down to the track and work out. But I would put in the infield of the track a blanket with our most prominent shoes on display with flyers. And whenever anybody would come over there and look at them, I'd interrupt my workout. Well, one day, Barbara was looking for a pair of shoes, so she was over there just sort of looking at various things. So I came over and started talking to her, and it turned out she was also looking for a job, and we needed someone to work part-time. So she started working part-time for the store, and one thing led to the next. She ended up marrying her boss.
That's a great story. And you have 2 or 3 kids?
Yes, and Barbara and I just celebrated this past weekend our 35th wedding anniversary.
Excellent.
Just one of my greatest achievement in life.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about the Galloway method because that's the best known thing today. How did you come up with the method of teaching other people to run injury-free?
Well, first of all, you have to realize that I was conducting these clinics in my Fidipides store, and I didn't want to burn people out or get them injured because I wanted them to come back in and get another pair of shoes and another training program so that they could enjoy the things that I was enjoying with running, the many, many aspects of it, blending body, mind, and spirit. So we had lots of interest for direction because people would go out and try this handout sheet that I would give them, and they said, you know, it really would help to have a group. Well, I was asked to teach a group back in '74 as part of Florida State University, a beginning running class. None of the folks had been doing any running at all for 5 years at least, some of them their whole lives. So I knew that there was going to be a lot of walking at first, and for the real basket case physical specimens, we would include a little bit of running into mostly walking, and then gradually they progressed a little bit. For the veteran young guys that had done other sports, they would have walk breaks into their run, and they would gradually progress to more and more running. But at the end of the 10-week period, out of 22 people, every one of them finished either a 5 or 10K, and nobody got injured. That's where the Galloway training program began. I used run, walk, run as early as 1974. We started doing marathon clinics as early as 1976, and we had other 10K and 5K clinics in between. All of the beginners were instructed in the run, walk, run. Veterans were offered a choice back then. But in the late 70s, early 80s, a lot of these beginners were progressing up and becoming competitive, and a lot of them continued to use their walk breaks because they were running faster with the walk breaks, and they were beating a lot of the veterans. So the veterans then came to me and said, you know, if we can't beat those walk break takers, let's join them. What should I do? And so I revised the run, walk, run method to accommodate faster times. And in numerous surveys, I've now found that those who used to run marathons continuously, when they had the right ratio of running to walking, improved an average of more than 13 minutes with the right run, walk, run ratio.
Wow, that's a dramatic improvement. 13 minutes over a marathon.
Yes, and about 7 minutes and a half.
That's dramatic. So, but you're constantly fine-tuning it.
Yes.
Because I'm part of your program for the last few years. That extended my running career. And it also I was able to introduce my wife to running because of your method. So as I said, not only have you gotten people to the starting line uninjured, but you introduce the sport of running to countless people who never thought they could possibly even get to the track. So I don't think you hear that enough. So thank you so much from the Sanchez family to you.
Well, I appreciate that, but Will, the greatest joy that I receive is daily hearing from an average of more than 100 runners who have used the method and have had just breakthroughs, not only in their fitness level or their running faster times, or being able to go a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles farther, first time in their lives, but what it translates in the rest of their life, the empowerment of being able to push your physical barriers back, connects right up with the mind and spirit, so that you get this wonderful blend of empowerment that allows people to do other things in their lives that they never thought were possible. And I have found, after having worked with a whole lot of people that called themselves basket case physical specimens, that practically anybody in our society can finish a half or a full marathon with the right ratio of running to walking right from the beginning. Don't really tell a person that tells me about some orthopedic problems they have that they for certain could do a marathon. I just say, try this and confer with your specialist on this to make sure. And particularly find a specialist to work with you who wants you to walk or run. And there is a wide range of advice that you're going to get depending on the specialist. If the specialist really would like for you to run or walk, if it's possible, there are a lot of benefits from that. So you want to find a good specialist to work with.
New York is blessed with sports doctors like that.
You are.
Okay.
This is a great market for that. What I've discovered and also verified by anthropologists and physiologists and orthopedists, podiatrist, is that the human body is designed to naturally adapt to running and walking. Now that said, if you run continuously, not many people are going to be able to go very far without having aches and pains. But if you have the right insertion of walking into a run, then the body keeps adjusting and adapting, and it doesn't get wiped out. If you didn't choose your parents well, the run, walk, run method will work.
What a typical Galloway runner would do in a week? What is the recommendation? We're talking about now somebody starting a marathon program.
Gradually building up to 30 minutes on Tuesday and 30 minutes on Thursday. You do not have to start out with 30 minutes on those 2 days. And then on the weekend, most weekends, one would gradually build up to an hour. So we're talking about a total of 2 hours for most marathoners on most of the weeks. The exception is that to build up to marathon or half marathon distance, I found the very best plan to gradually increase a long run every second or third week, usually on the weekend, that would build up to the distance of the race itself. And this is what we do in our programs, and we subdivide into pace groups based on a magic mile time trial that can sort people very well and accurately into their appropriate group.
Well, let's talk about the magic mile because it's relatively new, maybe 3 or 4 years. So what is the magic mile predictor or parameter?
I've always tried to find an assessment tool in our groups so that we can sort people into the right group and not allow people to get in over their head. That's where if people are running too fast on long runs, according to the research, they have a much higher probability of having aches, pains, and breakdowns. And if you slow them down and put them with the right run-walk-run ratio, they keep erasing the fatigue, and it doesn't build up and cause injuries. So what is the assessment tool? Well, the best one I've found so far is the Magic Mile. It's only 1 mile, and you can put walk breaks into that mile too. You time yourself, and on the first one, you simply go for the time, not for the speed. Just get a time. And then every one of the Magic Miles after that, your mission is to beat the previous best time. So you're constantly working on a personal record for that season. And as you go through, progressively, almost everybody improves on almost every Magic Mile. But by the end of the season, you're going to have a very accurate prediction based on over 40,000 people that I have put into a database and then crunched the numbers. I found that you tend to slow down 30% when you go from a fast 1 mile to a fast per mile pace in a marathon. 20% slow down in a half marathon, 15% slow down in a 10K, and 33 seconds per mile on the average for a 5K.
And of course, there are charts that you can look up. So if you if you started your Magic Mile from 11 minutes and you finish at 10 minutes, you could go to a chart that will predict under good conditions what your marathon time would be.
And we have a function on our jeffgalloway.com website that is free. You just plug in what your Magic Mile time is, and it'll tell you what your predicted all-out performance would be for these other races.
Excellent. Well, speaking about your website, you've kept in track with technology because I saw you have something an app that you could download from the Apple Store for free or for low cost. Tell us about this new application.
It's out of Lolo Fit, which is a company that's been around for a number of years producing apps of various types in the fitness field. What this app does is it has music along with my coaching. I have recorded the coaching messages so that you sign up for the Galloway Ultimate 5K app, and then I will be coaching you day by day, workout by workout, through the workout. The unique aspect is that as the pace picks up, the beat of the music picks up. So you are encouraged by the music to pick up your pace and go with the rhythm of your feet that
So
way.
you put this on your iPad or your
Yes.
iPhone. That's interesting. I don't usually run with music. I did once. It was an experiment that Nike Town had, and they gave me Alberto Salazar. And I must admit, I was thrilled when I heard him say, "Pick it up now."
Exactly.
I have to try yours.
Well, the human interaction works, and this is why coaching tends to be much more effective than someone going out and trying to do it themselves.
Yes, they say you shouldn't run with music when you're doing the actual marathon, but I guess in training, whatever works to get you out there.
That's exactly right, and it's all about individual issues and motivation, and the studies that have been done on marathoners speak for themselves. Out of every 20 people that start to train for a marathon on their own, only one makes it to the starting line of the marathon in a season. So it's only 1 out of 20.
To start.
And our groups, because of the group support and the fun, we have an over 98% success rate. And
That is amazing, the power of the group. But I want to go over a couple of things. One is, there are always going to be people, they're not going to walk, don't eat asphalt before they do that. So I keep telling people, the one walk worth it isn't for everybody. But I saw an interview you did with Dr. Gupta, I think his name, and Armstrong.
yes, Lance.
Lance. And Lance, this is when he did the New York Marathon the first time, and he
Yes.
struggled. And you turned to him, well, if you're taking walk breaks, If you were advising Lance Armstrong for that first marathon, what would make, and here's a well-known athlete, he probably would not have walked if he could avoid it. But let's say he was open-minded and he turned to you, Jeff, what advice do you have for me to do my first marathon, New York City?
Well, I did talk to Lance before we went on the set for about 20 minutes. It was a wonderful interchange, and he divulged two things before that first New York Marathon. His longest run had only been 13 miles, and he started the marathon with a stress fracture. Now, he did not know it was a stress fracture when he started. He discovered that as he got into the marathon, but he had committed to that, and I told him in our conversation before the interview that if he ever got himself into a situation like that, putting strategic walk breaks in a planned format from the beginning could really lower the adversity significantly, and may have actually avoided the really detrimental aspects of the stress fracture due to the continuous pounding.
Yes, yes.
Well, his comeback was very simple, and that was, I couldn't take a walk break. They had the cameras on me the whole time. But the fact is that advising someone who is going from 13 miles and wants to run a marathon. Now, I would never advise anybody do that, but a lot of people have told me that they came on my run, walk, run method late in the game, that they really wanted to do this particular marathon.
Yes, yes.
They had been pretty much running continuously, but only had run half the distance. And when they went to run a minute, walk a minute, I've heard from hundreds that have been able to do double their distance when they drop from continuous running to run a minute, walk a minute. A lot of them actually ended up running about as fast or faster than they had when they tried to run continuously and then slowed down dramatically at the end, which happens with most marathoners.
Recent Boston Marathon. The first 4 or 5 runners broke the course record that day. But as you know, it's not considered a world record.
Oh, I think they should allow it. The Boston course has so many hills on it. It's not like that it's this continuous downhill course. And the Boston, year to year, going back as early as 1900, has been the unofficial world championship course. And many, many countries select their Olympic teams by sending them to Boston. I believe that because of the tradition and the heritage and everything else, that Boston records should be allowed as world records.
Thank you so much for stopping by and sitting down with Galloway.
You're doing a great job, Will.